right. Welcome to another episode of The Learning Lever. Today we have Stacy McGranor with us, and we're going to talk about learning, the business of sports, and a whole lot of other things, hopefully. Stacy, thank you for coming on. So good to see you. We're going to do all sorts of different jumping around. We're going to talk learning, we're going to talk business. But first, let's talk a little bit about your background. I'd love to get your kind of intro on what you've been doing. I know you taught a course with us. We could talk about that, and then you're
Yeah.
transitioning. You've recently transitioned. So give us a little bit about your history and your current status of what you're doing with business and sports.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. It's so good to be here. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
And congrats on getting this launched. So I feel
Thank
very
you.
excited, very privileged to be here. So,
Our privilege, but thank
um,
you.
yeah, so I've spent the bulk of my career on the team side with sports. So I spent some time in the NBA, I spent some time in Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, and most recently the National Hockey League. So lots of experiences, lots of fans, have had an absolute blast. Very traditional path in, I would say. Inside sales, I wasn't great. So wound up finding my way over to the service side of the business, service and retention, which again, thank you for letting me do the course on that. So the 3 hours was super
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Um, and then from there, I realized to, I think, advance my career, I really needed to understand the marketing and the data side of the business. So, really got exposed to that with the Orlando Magic, which was my time in the NBA. Learned so much about how data informs everything they're doing, how it can be used very strategically to advance relationships with customers and certainly the business. Was able to use that to land a marketing coordinator job with the Sharks and spent about 10 years with them. And with them, it was a marketing coordinator, marketing manager, and then eventually kind of took all that experience, rolled it into the director of CX strategy with them, which I joke that the CX for the Sharks was more kind of the tech version. So your customer journey mapping, market research, data analytics,
Sure.
service blueprinting, all of that, and a little bit less. My hot dog is cold and my beer is warm. So yeah,
Fair enough.
so then I've kind of bundled all of that experience into my current role,
Yeah.
which I am the founder and chief experience officer for a company called Blueprints and Playbooks. So I loved everything I was doing with the Sharks, find it so fulfilling. And I just selfishly, I want to give that back to as many different fan bases as I can. So I feel like my job is to sprinkle joy everywhere. And I felt like I could do that with my own consulting agency. So that's where we are today and having a blast.
So much to unpack. So first off, let me say my first hockey game ever was a Sharks game when I was in college, and it was amazing. Went with like a friend's sisters and then my mom. Like it was amazing. And then now I have an 11-year-old who's a Sharks fan through friends of friends of friends, and she's like, we have to go to another game. So love the Sharks experience. They, the things they've added over the years, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then there's what you're doing now. But first, you've also hit multiple leagues. Like
Yes.
that's, I mean, a lot of people hit one or two. You've hit several. Again, we'll get back to what you're kind of how that affects what you're doing now. But like that experience of going from league to league, how would you characterize the stuff that's similar versus what's so different? Like, what's the ratio of like, oh, it's all sports, or oh my God, it's not even all sports. It's so different. Like, what's that ratio look like for you when you're thinking about, you know, the job itself?
Yeah, so maybe I'll use Major League Soccer as kind of the starting point because when my years in soccer were, I'd say, the earlier years
Sure.
in the league. And so we wore a lot of different hats. I feel like we were leaner, we were scrappier, we were tougher.
Yeah.
But we just didn't have as many people, which meant that you were definitely doing things that were in sports. The big joke is the other duties as assigned bullet point on every job description ever. And so MLS had a lot of those, but it was such a good training ground, proving ground, learning ground where you just, if you didn't know how to do it, you were going to figure it out, but you were surrounded by people with that
Sure.
same mindset. And that's not to say that the other leagues don't have that. It was just way more prevalent in MLS. And I was with the Crew and also the San Jose Earthquakes. And so in both instances, it was just a lot of learning on the fly, a lot of figuring it out, a lot of trying, a lot of experimenting.
Yeah.
Um, I would say the NHL and the NBA and Major League Baseball are a little bit more different in that people are a little bit more specialized in what they do. So, not to say that you're pigeonholed, you just have a little bit more of a kind of a central focus of your role. That also means that you have support. I remember when I got to the Magic, I was leading their service team. And so, coming from MLS, that meant like putting on all of the season ticket holder events and
Okay.
doing all of those from scratch and planning them and project managing them and executing them and doing all the
Wow.
things. And then when I got to Orlando, I'm like, oh, we have an events team. I'm like, you have a what? What does this mean? Um, and so you wind up with we were very, very, very good, I feel like, in everything we did in MLS. Again, you just have more specialized folks in the bigger leagues. I think MLS has come a long way, and I think they're
Sure.
definitely getting there. Um, so it just, we were great at a lot of things in MLS. And the more specialized you get, I feel like that's kind of your path to being exceptional. And so I think MLS has done a great job of learning that from the other four. But yeah, that's what I would say maybe is the biggest difference.
Yeah.
With more specialization, I guess also comes more roles, right? There's more chances to do different things, and there's also more career progression that I think comes with that too.
Yeah, in fact, that's maybe a good way to look at like what's happening now. Like you've spent time, the business of sports has evolved. I mean, I'm still newer in the world of business of sports, and I realize like people are like when I talk to one person, BSA, strategy analytics, is a stuff
Yep.
that's been around a while, and other people are like this is new, and that's only in the
Yes.
last 5 to 10 years that that's become such a big deal. When you look at what you're doing now with that perspective and that experience, what's the state of affairs today and what you're doing, and how does that all kind of show up in reality day to day now in the business of sports?
Yeah, so it's such a good question. I think actually customer experience is the perfect example. Like I think I am and CX is where BSAs were 10 years ago. So
Okay.
analytics and data and business intelligence, all of that was really relatively new and exciting and kind of the new forefront of where the sports
Yeah.
business operations were headed. And it is now, I think, established. I think where we are now is in a place where it's like, okay, we have all of this data and we're actioning some of it, but what about the rest? And so for me, that's my favorite sandbox is most teams now, as part of their kind of day-to-day operations, have all kinds of information on their fans. I don't know how much work is being done right now to really actually dive in and be like, okay, what do the fans want? And then how can we deliver while still making sure that we're also delivering business results? I think sometimes those have felt at cross purpose where
Sure.
fans want this, but the business needs this. And so connecting those two, what feel like opposing forces, I think that's the coolest thing right now going on in sports. And I'm really happy to be like kind of on that leading edge, the leading curve.
Without a doubt. So let's. I'm going to put this together because I think it's interesting. What is the North Star today in terms of customer experience? When you're looking at your next project, your next team that you're helping with, there's getting them from A to B to C. Like, what do you have now, and
Yeah.
how do we incrementally get you where you need to go? Which I've heard about. But what's the North Star of that experience look like in your vision of marrying those two, of what the team and the league needs and what the customer experience really can be in its best case scenario?
Yeah. So I think the word that you're going to hear from almost every franchise that exists today, that keyword is going to be personalization. So
Okay.
I think that's probably on paper, I think that's the North Star. I think for me, I'm going a little bit higher, right? So for me,
Love it.
it
Love it.
is so for me, it's how do you take the investment that you're making already in experience? So your stadium operations, your database marketing, like
Yep.
all of those things, all the stuff that you're spending to create the personalized experience, how do we convert that from cost center to revenue driver? And it can be done. It's just really like shifting the mindset of like it costs money to give fans what they want, as opposed to if we give fans what they want, there will be a significant return on investment or return on experience, which is what I call it, the rocks.
Okay. Here, then let's go with this one. What's the quicksand for personalization? This is going to take me back to some of my technology training days with Yahoo
Yeah.
and LinkedIn and all that. But there's personalization, but it sounds good, it looks good, and there is a quicksand element of it can suck you in. And I think you're rightfully hitting on this idea of like attach it to a revenue opportunity or a existing infrastructure that you want to maximize. What's the quicksand that you got to be careful of with personalization?
Defining it. So, like, what are you going
Okay.
to do with it? Right. So, like, if you personalize everything, what does that mean for your organization? Like, it's way more now, hi, Stacy, in an email, like, hi, first name. But what does that personalized experience mean? What data do you have to support it? If you have a season ticket holder and you know what their path is on every single game day, how are you proving to them that you know what it is and surprising and delighting them along the way at a very individual level? What are the benefits that people want? What are your different customer segments, and how are you delivering something that is unique to that segment, if not
Okay.
that person? So defining it, right? We use the word a lot, but I
Sure.
don't know, not but I would say we use the word personalization a lot. I would love to see us get better at saying what that means. So we personalize your experience in these ways. And for you as our fan, that's what this means.
Yeah. It is an interesting area too, right? I personalize everything. It says "Dear Ryan"
Yeah.
when I get the
Yeah.
email. I personalize everything. It says "Dear fan." Like I'm talking to the fans, not the sponsors. Like there's different levels, right?
100%.
And you're like, we personalize everything is the other thing. It's like, well, it doesn't feel that way, and
Yeah,
which is the other thing,
exactly.
right? How do the fans feel that it's personalized? And that evolves, and that's a moving target sometimes, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
what about we're a learning podcast, right? We're a learning company. So we'll take you back to the learning in your career and in your life in general. Can
Yeah.
you think of something, an event, a course, a experience where learning stood out and really became something that either opened a new door for you or led to a particular success or something you rely on still today? And then I'm kind of stalling because there's so many things that come to mind for people. Like for me, it was like this national conference thing I went to in high school, and then there was maybe this thing I had in my first job. What was the first learning that happened after college, maybe? Like, or
Mm.
after formal like training that showed up in your career that was like, oh, I am getting better. This is what I needed. That quote unquote corporate learning experience or practical learning experience. Do you have one that resonates in
Oh
your?
man.
I know it's tough. That's why I always like to stall
Yeah.
for just a second because it is a difference, and we focus on higher ed, we focus on primary
Hmm.
ed, we focus on online learning like our company, but there's a lot of different elements of corporate learning, peer to peer, managerial, and then even programs. Does one stand out as more significant than the others for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I go all the way back, so when I was in inside sales, I was in Tampa. I was with the
Okay,
Rays. And so that was my first,
nice.
one of my first jobs out of college, but definitely my first job in sports. And so I think looking back on that, everybody uses the phrase like drinking from a fire hose. But
Yeah.
I like felt like I just had my head in like the cotton candy machine because it was learning that there's a seating map. There are different tiers to pricing. There are different reasons that we have these tiers. We have different products that you need to know about. And this is what each of them is. And this is how a ticketing system works. And when you are selling, this is what you need to be doing. So with sales techniques, it was learning the actual product and then learning how to connect the two of them. And I only knew, you said it earlier, I only knew how I felt when I was at a sporting event or I was, seeing the playing surface for the first
Sure.
time. So I knew the emotion. I didn't know the logic and I didn't know how to get that product out into the marketplace. So the connection of the technicalities, the technical
Okay.
aspects, and the actual product to the emotion, and then understanding for the first time that I could be that. I think that was really, really powerful.
That makes sense. And you bring up like inside sales or sales in general. We talk a lot about is the gateway job because there's so much
Yeah.
needed, and then there's turnover, and it's a great way to learn a lot of different elements of the business for sure. You kind of talked about that, like the different buckets of learning. The across all of those. How does that apply today? Now that you have so much experience in what you're doing now, where's the learning coming from? What are you having to go back to the drawing board on? What are you having to like really pick up and go, oh, wait, this is new? Because you obviously have so much knowledge with all those different leagues and teams and experience. Where's the learning happening now for you in terms of, oh, I got to figure this out?
Literally everywhere, every day.
Good answer.
So there are, having been with clubs for, 16 seasons, we had a creative services department, we had a marketing department, we had a ticket sales department, we had all these things. If I submit a request today, it's coming to me. So there are a lot of things that I have no idea how to do and that I just need to figure it out. And honestly, one of those things is actually goes back to my raise days. Like I have to relearn selling and what it means and what it looks like and how to have those conversations. So I'm reading books, I'm taking courses, I have gone out and got a mentor. Like I am actually I'm in the learning phase all day, every day. And I will tell you, it has been so energizing. There are moments I'm like, how do I not know how to do this? But at the same time, it's so energizing to go and learn. And at the end of every day, kind of like when we were kids and we would leave school and like it just something in your brain clicked that day and you got home like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like I
Yeah.
understand fractions.
Yeah. Very
So
true to my heart right now with an 11-year-old. We're working on some of the multiply fraction decimals and then relearning stuff that I
yeah,
thought we learned last year.
yeah.
We learned this already, but yeah,
What are
I
we
hear you.
doing? But yeah, all day, every day, I am learning again. And then I think what comes maybe with age is the wisdom to understand the lessons and the mistakes. So there was one, I definitely made a critical error a couple weeks ago. Okay, a couple months ago now. But yesterday I had the aha moment, like it actually crystallized in my brain, like, oh, this is what happened. So like, don't do this again. And I think that's the difference between learning right out of school and learning as an adult or as a professional with experience is being able to say, oh yeah, you can't be doing that again. And here's why. And here's what you can do instead. So that's the power of learning, I think. One of the many powers.
Yeah, that is again. I always talk about people that love to learn or lifelong learners, and there's people that resist on some level. There just are, and if you can be on that lifelong learning kind of embrace it, especially in today's day and age, and especially in the world of sports, like it's necessary. Um,
Yes.
when you think about that, the diversity of what's out there, like I I think this is maybe the other thing that we've really encountered with people that are trying to improve their careers and progress through, move up the chain, and definitely people trying to break into the industry is there's maybe not a great individual roadmap. There's a lot of
Hmm.
pathways. And what's your take on the diversity of where you go into the role, like where you go in, how you go in, what level you go in, or
Hmm.
hey, how long do you stay somewhere now? You've been there for a year or two. There's certain progressions within teams, and there's certain progressions where you have to move out of teams. How would you recommend someone in their career, junior level, maybe entry level, that's like, here's kind of the secret sauce of what I would think about in terms of pathing through the diversity.
Yeah, so I love the question because this today there are so many, you said it, there are so many more paths of entry into the sports business, which I think is really cool. And I'm so happy to
Yeah.
see that for the future generations because inside sales really was like the only way in back when and I say this like I'm 160 years old. When I
Not
was
at
their
all.
age, don't mean that at all. But I think the first thing that you got to know and that you got to understand is what lights you up as a human. Like what fulfills you? Why, aside from it being cool and awesome to be in sports, why do you want to be there? And then what impact do you want to have? And those answers are going to evolve over time. But I think when you're looking for roles or you're seeing what's available, a piece of advice I always give is just go read as many job descriptions as you
Oh
can.
yeah.
The ones that give you goosebumps and the ones that are like, oh, that's your next job. That's the one you want. Those are the ones you need to go look at because if they light you up as a human and they engage your full being, you're always going to want to learn. You're always going to want to try harder. You're going to want to do better. You're going to ask more questions, and you're ultimately going to have more success because it feeds everything that you are, and it
I like
also
that.
will
Yeah.
help pave what that path of growth is. And so um I'll use my Sharks example and hopefully he'll learn or he'll hear this. But my boss at the Sharks, he was with me the day that I actually heard that the Bulls were using psychology in a lot of their business decisions, specifically in the partnerships group.
Okay.
And I was literally and metaphorically on the edge of my seat. And so we were having lunch after, and he said, "It's like, I haven't seen you that focused on a keynote presentation ever." And at that point, we had worked together for like 4 years.
Wow.
And so I said, "Look, we got to do this. And like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure it out. And like, the only thing you need to know in the job description, it just has to be my name. Like, you have to be me to be qualified to do this." Um, and because I had finally gotten to a place where I was like, this is the thing that from head to toe, I know we need to be doing, and I can't wait to get started. And it just we continued to evolve. The business continued to get better. I got better. Like, our fans were better for it. And so
Yeah.
that's the piece for me. If it lights you up, chase that.
Yeah.
And with so many different opportunities, you can find it. Like, it's out there.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I haven't heard the specific piece of read a lot of job descriptions, and that makes so much sense with the piece that I do hear all the time, which is reach out to these people for information, meetings, and questions, but go in with more knowledge than how do I get into sport. It's like
Yeah.
that is the biggest mistake that we see. It's like, I want to be in sports. Like, okay, well, do some homework. And this is a good way to
Yeah.
look at job descriptions, read them, understand them. That you can do. You can do some of those research moments, and going in with a point of view, perspective, and a passion point, that puts you at the front of a list of a lot of people
Agreed.
that don't have that for sure. I
Yeah.
think that's
And
one of the things I love
never,
about all of
ever,
our courses in operating experts. They
yes.
have that.
Never ever ever use the phrase, "I just need to get a foot in the door." Like, that's the other thing. Like, that's the one, like, if anybody listening takes anything away, just eradicate that phrase from your vocabulary.
100%.
And also take out the word "unfortunately." Those are the two things. I'm like, if I hear either of those things in an interview, I'm immediately turned off. So yeah,
Good
so never
advice.
ever say that.
Good advice, especially and again, we talk about the entry, but it's also the progression. There's so many people
Yeah.
that have their first start somewhere and don't really leverage it because of these similar obstacles. So I love that. Okay, we're gonna switch gears a teeny bit here. I want to talk more about like what you're seeing as the future. Like, you're in an
Hmm.
industry that is the future. You're talking about an industry that's evolving massively, and you're in an area that's cutting edge and leading. What do you see the next 3, 5 years? I mean, we've talked about more roles, more specialization, but what else do you see on the horizon for the jobs and the business of the way sports is growing or changing for that matter?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is venues, right? So I think you have new venues
Yeah.
being built. I think you have a lot of venues being renovated, and I think the construction and the renovations are being done. Um, they're being done now with hopefully an eye to the future. So I think that the thinking about that specifically, I think it's imperative that as teams and franchises look to either build new or renovate, that they're thinking about what fans are saying they want now, but also what the trends are for the current generations, but in 5 years, in 7 years, in 10 years, and understanding like, is there still going to be a need for all of the premium space that we're talking about right now? Is that going to go away? Is there something else that's going to emerge? And so I think that's going to be the biggest piece, is buildings with that'll be finished in 2028, or the renovations will be done in 2030. Are you building for 2025, or are you building for 2030? And what are you doing? What are the gaps you're looking at? So I think that's probably the first piece. Um,
Yeah.
I think the second piece is understanding. I'm a big believer in the jobs to be done theory. So understanding why people are coming to your building. Like, what job
Yeah.
are you doing for them, and how well are you doing it? What are they trying to accomplish through tickets, through season tickets, through a group outing? What are they trying to accomplish with your brand? And then the third one is all those same questions, but for partnerships. I think that
Yeah.
in the corporate partnerships world, understanding each other's why and what each brand brings to the other is really, really important. A lot of tech companies are looking to be fun adjacent through sports.
Yeah.
But what are sports teams getting then with that partnership? I think healthcare is another big one, right? You see healthcare partnerships all over the place in sports, but what does that mean? How is the healthcare system meeting sports fans where they are? So those are probably the big three that I would say.
Wow. Those are those make sense with what I'm seeing. They make sense with what I'm hearing and talking about. And again, you're much closer to it than I am for sure. So that's awesome. Okay. We've chatted about the past. We chatted about the current situation. We talked about the future. We talked about learning. Uh, Two things here to get us towards our wrapping up. So the first one is you did a course for us. So
I did.
thank you. It's very nice. We love our operating experts that come in and help us do a course. Um what takeaway, this is not a plug, but the shameless, like, was your experience like in doing the course in terms of for the learners, not in terms of our business or in terms of, your history, but like when you were building that, doing those videos, doing those activities, setting that together with our team, what is most kind of maybe stuck with you, or what are you most excited for them to hear about in that course? Because it is such, it's a favorite already as some of the early data.
Oh,
And
good.
I think it really does show the value of, you don't have to be there for 15 weeks necessarily to get, some knowledge and some skills. So what in that experience, what would be your takeaway that you hope learners learn from your course?
So I think be yourself in your role. Like there are things that you have to do in the role, but you also need to show up as you in the role. Like you can't show up as specifically retention. Like you can't be showing up as a robot. You can't be showing up to check boxes. You need to show up for your clients. They need to
Yeah.
know who you are. You need to know who they are. And I think the course, which massive stick taps to you guys. It was laid out so well, like it was so well organized.
All you,
So
but
there
thank
was a
you.
chance to like go through that and go over that and the how to do it. I think the biggest thing for me is have faith in yourself to show up as yourself for your clients, because it's going to bring you way more success, which is going to bring the club way more success, which then leads to the advancement that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I will say that's what I do love about the ability for us to bring those classes together, is to help provide some structure for those that are experts in a role that maybe aren't experts in teaching, which you could be very quickly. But it's nice to be able to help with that and bring that out. Okay, here's my final question I like to talk about at the end of these things. So we're
Okay.
definitely wrapping up here, but I'm a big fan of movies and television in general, mostly movies.
Hmm.
And so I like to, I'm giving you a chance to think about movies here again, preface this.
Okay.
Is there a movie or TV show that has a learning lesson, a life lesson that you can still like, I remember watching this and thinking, or I still think about this in X. And I've got several examples I've shared in previous episodes and all that, which I can talk about. But there's so many points of views in good movies. There's so many stories, and in there is usually some really good learning. Do you have a favorite movie, character, takeaway, book, story? I see some nodding. I'm gonna stop. What
Yeah.
do you got? What's your movie takeaway, learning thing, or TV show?
Yeah, so I feel like this is going to be a pretty common answer, but that doesn't make it less true. But for me, it's Ted Lasso, without a doubt. And
Good
there's
one.
two.
Okay.
So the first one is Believe, right? Like he had the
Love it.
sign. I even have the T-shirt. And like the day that I actually launched my company, I have a three-quarter sleeve T-shirt, and I wore it that day for like the pictures for the company, because it's so important, I think, to me to continue to believe, even when it seems unbelievable. And there are days where it seems unbelievable. Um, I think for young professionals and for learners, I think belief is key. You need to believe in your future. You need to believe in your ability to do what is being asked of you. And you need to believe in the people who are helping guide you in your career. Like, I just think it's so
Yeah.
important because it's like the cornerstone, right?
Yes.
Um, and then on the days where you maybe don't have all that belief at the core of your soul, you got to be a goldfish.
Look, those are good. I haven't had them yet. You're the first to bring it up on the show, so that's awesome. And I actually, first of all, great show, great stuff. Could talk about it in 30 different ways. I really like the idea of using that to talk about people that are breaking into the industry,
Mhm.
or junior in the industry, because I think it strikes the right chord between be confident and not cocky and arrogant, and be
Yes.
respectful and not timid and shy and put off and intimidated. It strikes the right chord of respect and confidence and all of that if you believe in yourself and what's happening and what you're doing. So I think that's a really timely one for what's happening right now. And I think it's of
Yeah.
course, if you haven't seen the show, you should go watch a show, of course, because it's great all the
Absolutely.
way
You'll
through.
watch it in a day. And there's a new season. They've officially
New
like season 4. I can't
Who knew we were a
wait.
Ted Lasso podcast plugging? We didn't think this was going to be the case, but it should be.
See if
All
we can
right.
get Jason Sudeikis and Hannah Waddingham to listen.
Yeah, I think our guests are better in terms of their skill set. You know, they're running sports businesses. They're not busy with. No, I'm just kidding. We could talk about that for a while and get ourselves in trouble. Listen, everyone, thank you for joining us, Stacy. Amazing. We're gonna share this with folks. They're gonna see your class, and of course, we'll see you in another class down the road, I imagine. But
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you
hoping.
so much for joining us and for doing a class with us. We absolutely appreciate the partnership.
Thank you. It is my pleasure, and I can't wait to continue collaborating. So thank you so much, Ryan. This was so fun.
Blast. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. And everyone else that's out there, thank you for listening to both of us. We hope this helped in some way. Feel free to follow, subscribe. I'm sure there's an outro that's got all those wonderful buzzwords following my voice. So thanks again. We'll wrap it up here. See you later, Stacy.
Cheers.
Bye. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thank you for listening to The Learning Lever.